The Ryan Goodman and Tangway podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Hey, it's that time again, everybody. It's time for the Bob Bryant, Jeff Goodman, Tangway Along for the Ride pod, brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Okay, fellas, not a lot going on, but as always, we'll find something to talk about. I do find it interesting because I think that this has been the #1 team in the East, period, for the last 4 or 5 years. It's just injuries that have kept them out of it. But the Bucks, according to NBA.com, and I'll start with you, Jeff Goodman, are the offseason #1 ranked team in the East ahead of the Celtics, as it should be, in my opinion. Do you think the moves by the Celtics help them or hurt them?
I like the move by the Celtics. I mean, move is kind of how I look at it right now.
But I guess, do you think it helped them, hurt them in the rankings, or didn't do anything for them?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it, on one hand, obviously offensively, it helps them. On the defensive end, it probably hurts them. I think the biggest thing with the Bucks is you kind of know what you're going to get. That's the one thing with Milwaukee. When you look at them, you say to yourself, all right, I know what I'm going to get out of Giannis. But the injury concerns worry me. Obviously with Chris Middleton being hurt a good chunk of the last 2 years, I just don't know. I don't know what you're going to get out of Chris Middleton at this point in his career, where I think you could say something similar with Porzingis with the Celtics to some degree, but he's much younger. I think he's got a better chance of being healthy really than Chris Middleton at this point. So I think you're splitting hairs, to be honest. I think you kind of could go either way with Milwaukee or Boston. More of kind of, I want to wait and see how this Porzingis experiment works in Boston, where, again, you have Giannis, you have Drew Holiday, you have Middleton. They've got a really good, group of role guys as well, like Pat Connaughton, obviously, and some of those guys, Portis.
And one more, Lopez.
And Lopez. They got him back. Yep.
To me, he's one of the most fascinating sagas of our of my whole career watching the NBA, is this total reinvention that he has made of himself offensively to go along with his continually good defense. It's an interesting thing. I mean, it isn't important ultimately. It's fun giving us something to talk about. Thank you very much. It's good. But conjecture and injuries are such a factor. You don't know what team, how you're going to line up in April. You don't know. But the Celtics are, I won't say a mystery guest now, but they're a team with a real question that we want to see.
Bob, if I may interject, a curiosity.
That's a good word.
Very much so.
I was searching for a word. We don't know. I mean, I know. Obviously, I've already changed my opinion on the deal based on what my information that I have now learned about the way Porzingis has been conducting himself, the way he did last year, the way he played last year, as opposed to the way he played other years at other places. That guy, I'm anxious to see. I'm a worrywart here because I don't trust Joe yet. I want to see Joe Mazzulla use him properly.
But do you trust? Hey, by the way, Milwaukee's got a guy named Adrian Griffin, who's the head coach, who's never called a timeout to my knowledge in the NBA. So
very good point.
He's been in the NBA a long time as a player and assistant.
Yes.
But again, it's not like they've got this veteran head coach over there right now.
All right. So my thing wasn't the overall coaching tactics and demeanor. It's specifically how he's planning on using Porzingis and utilizing the fact. Don't forget, Joe, he's 7'3". Remember that, Joe. He's 7'3".
You know how Bob would use him, Gary. Bob would be like, get the hell in the post.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So, balance it out. I understand he can shoot threes. Great. I know there'll be nights. I guarantee there'll be a night he'll make 5 or 6. There will be. That's fine. But I want to see him with his butt down there in the post equally as he's standing out there gazing in the corner. And apparently that's what he did in Washington last year when I wasn't watching. Don't lie to me, anybody listening or watching, to tell me you saw the Wizards last year, because, unless you got had a betting favorite or something. I mean, nobody saw the Wizards last year, and I didn't, and that's why I paid the price with my ignorance when I was skeptical about the trade when it was made, because I didn't see him last year.
This is how I feel about the Bucks. Is I feel that at the end of the day, during the era of Giannis, if they only have one title to show for it, they have failed.
Well, it's not like he was in a vacuum, that there aren't other great players that he would have to go through it at some point or another. Is he a player of his time? A handful of one. I think we consider, him and Jokic and now.
Well, I mean, I felt, Bob, that it was going to be okay. It went from Jordan to LeBron, and I thought it was going to go from LeBron to Giannis.
Well,
that's what I thought was going to happen. No, Jokic has changed things. You're right. But to me, when I look at Giannis, I'm like, dude, you got to get more. You got to get more than one.
Well, I guess, but again, your sidekick has been hurt. Well,
they got to do something about that, Jeff, to me, because, I don't know, what's the window for Milwaukee? I mean, focus on Milwaukee for a minute, because to me, they're a bit of an enigma. It's like, if I'm a Bucks fan, I'm kind of pissed.
Sure, Brook Lopez is going to turn 36 this season.
That's what I was going to just look up.
Right. Yes, the window. Middleton's not as old as you think. I think he's probably in his early 30s, but his body's starting to break down on him a little bit.
So if I'm a Bucks season ticket holder, I'm going, okay, you changed the coach. What else? Coach, give me a break. I mean, we all know the coach is only as good as the players.
Well, yeah,
I was just thinking about
it. Coach I disagree to some extent, because I think, again, if you're a coach that players love and you're good enough to get there, I mean, look at what Spoelstra did with that team last year.
Well, that's true. You got me on that.
Right. I mean,
I agree.
There are some exceptions to the rule. Yes, there are probably 15 or 20 guys you could throw in a hat, and then there's probably 5 that are really bad and 5 that are really good that make a difference on either end.
Okay, that's fair.
There's horses for courses. Some coaches are better with veterans, some are better with kids, some are better with. I mean, the greatest chicken salad out of chicken, coach that I ever saw was Hubie in Atlanta and other places. But you give him the best team, he might want to coach too much.
Right? You have a coach. Right.
And we
can't you say that about Brad? Hey, Bob, can't you say that about Brad Stevens to some degree? It's like he maximized their talent, but then when he had some dudes, can he handle those egos as well as maybe some other guys? Because those guys, let's face it, most NBA players right now want to play for an Adrian Griffin, want to play for somebody that's been in the league, that knows how to kind of handle them. And, even Ime, right? Ime wasn't a guy who played like a huge role in the league, but he was in the league. So immediately you gain their respect.
Right.
Like Darvin Ham, he's getting, he walks in, and I think, I think he did a good job. And, in a very tumultuous year in Los Angeles. No, we looked through this. We went through this ourselves here with KC. We Fitch to KC. When that move was made, it was a very important move in a positive way. When we went from Fitch to KC with that group of guys, they had tuned out Fitch, all but Larry. Everybody else tuned him out, and they needed, and everybody loved good old Case. And you saw what happened: 2 championships in 3 years. It could have been 3. And then when all hell broke loose physically and everything started to fall apart in 86, 87, and they needed a coach, Casey couldn't coach. Casey was the best coach for the 85, 86 Celtics. Couldn't find a better coach. They played for him. He knew, he just had to hold the reins just with the right tension on that team. And the next year, he was the worst coach they could have had. So that can happen too. Yeah.
It's also interesting when you look at the NBA's rankings for the East. They got Miami number 8. Which is probably right? But at the end of the day, it doesnn't matter. I just laugh.
Which is a tribute to Spoelstra, that what they did.
No, and Butler, Spoelstra, Butler
last
too,
year.
To me.
But I haven't seen this list yet, but wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they got number 8. Well, the thing for me, and before we wrap this up, the Celtics are still young, but boy, and I was off last week when you guys were handling things. Jaylen Brown gets that big contract. The pressure's on, man. Money changes everything. I mean, they got to deliver. He's getting $300 million. Tatum's got, pressure's on, Jeff. I mean, it really is. It's not about all-star games anymore here. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times. That's 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets and up to $200. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to be, hitting the first home run. All in the app that's safe, secure, it's super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/Boston and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
No, we talked about this. Bob,
I'm sure you did. Yeah.
Excellent point.
Yeah, but
you're right, Gary.
But you're right. Like now, it almost takes some of the pressure off of Tatum a little bit.
It does. That's true. That's true.
Which we didn't talk about last week, but it's true because, listen, Tatum's still going to have it on him because he's the #1 guy. But now it's going to be probably a little more even because while Tatum's a more talented guy, it's still going to be, look at how much money Jaylen Brown's getting. And nobody's going to say that about Tatum.
No. He's going to have a dollar sign on his back. There's no question.
Yeah, and that's part of the deal. I mean, that's life in the big city, man.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy to start with. There's a lot of.
What are you going to do? You're going to turn it down? I mean, listen.
No, by God, no.
You're not turning down 305 and saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm not sure if I want 305. Pay me 285."
Yeah, no, I understand that.
So I don't. Yeah. Now, again, that might have been the best thing for him in the long run because ultimately, all next year is going to be is about if he has a bad game, especially in the postseason.
Oh boy, he's going to get killed.
Yeah, he's going to get killed if he dribbles into traffic and again loses the ball over and over and over, and can't. Again, my biggest thing, it's about obviously his handle, but as much as it is about the fact that he can't go left, it's also for me about the fact that, and I know I've said it over and over, but I don't feel like enough people talk about this. He doesn't make others better around him.
Right.
Does not give guys easy baskets. And that's an area that I think he needs to get better in order to get paid, because he's not an elite scorer. He's not a guy that you give the ball to and say, hey, go get us a basket. Can he do it at times? Sure. But he's not Kobe. He's not any of those dudes. He's a second-tier superstar. He's a fringe all-star, in my opinion. So you got to be able to do other things well. And you know what's regressed? His defense has regressed significantly since early years of Jaylen Brown in the league.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with anything there. So it's going to be a very fascinating.
I didn't get a chance to ask you guys real quick. Is that going to be a problem? Is the money going to be a problem, Bob, between he and Tatum?
I think Tatum's smart enough to understand what's going on here in terms of why he was eligible for the max, and
right.
And I think he wants him. I think he wants him as a teammate. I think So I want to say no. I'm going to give Tatum the benefit of doubt to figure.
I would vehemently say no. And you know why, Gary? Because all it means is Jason Tatum's going to make a lot more money.
Eventually, what's that, in a couple of years?
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So he's going to make $400 million.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. Let's get to this is right in Bob's wheelhouse here as we segue into Dr. J's top 10. And I got Bob's text. And when you're Jeff Goodman, as we talk about our esteemed colleague Bob Ryan, Bob was always one of those writers, and this is why he was so great. I heard his voice when I read his words. I swear to God. I mean, I would hear that South Jersey tone coming through the globe. Okay. I would hear it. Same thing with the text. And when the Dr. J top 10 came out and Bob sent the text, I heard the tone. So, Bob, how do you want to do Dr. J's top 10? You want me it's no particular order. Would you like me to read it, or do you want to just have at it?
No, what?
read it.
Read it.
Okay,
Read it.
okay, this is in no particular order.
Yeah.
Dr. J's top 10 from what I've got on the web. Jerry West, Oscar Robertson, Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Jordan, Kareem, Magic, Karl Malone, and Tiny Archibald. No Bird, no LeBron, no KD, no Freak.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
What was he smoking? What was Dr. J smoking when he came up with this list?
I got to start with this. The first thing I thought of, Larry Bird's first professional game was an exhibition in Madison Square Garden against the Philadelphia 76ers. I won't say he kicked his ass, but I will say this. When that game was over, Dr. J had to know, oh my God, I now have a threat to my supremacy and I have a problem. And it never changed, ever. And I can't understand that he would, and I always liked him, by the way. I had a good relationship with him. I always respected him, liked him. But I don't, and I thought he was a smart guy. Come on, Doc. There's something going on here that you would leave Larry off your list.
Oh, he's of course he's pissed, or
especially
intentional
when he is included not only the most overrated NBA star ever, but maybe the most overrated star in the history of any sport in our lifetime, Karl Malone. I mean, come on, you would take Karl Malone to win tonight, even if it was 3-on-3 for $5 over Larry. Come on,
or LeBron.
What's the matter with him?
Amazing.
That is just absurd. Absurd.
Why is LeBron? Let's talk about Karl Malone. That's interesting, Bob, because I've never heard you say that. I understand it. I never really thought about it. But why do you feel? What makes Malone so overrated?
I think he's the ultimate stat filler, and when it really mattered, the times things happened that shouldn't happen because he wasn't a smart player. He was a limited player, robotic, did what he did very well. The limited things that he did very well. That move, the jump shot, and he owes his life to John Stockton.
Well, yeah, I was going to say he played with Stockton.
That's part B. And he just wasn't as good as his numbers. And his numbers, people, if you only know the numbers, and my God, he's number. What is he? Number 3 scorer? 2? I don't know what the hell. He's a big all-time scorer. But you not the winner that those numbers would indicate. I'm sorry. So that right there. Tiny. I mean, I love Tiny. We all love Tiny. But what is this?
Yeah, he's not even top 20.
I mean, come on. Yeah, Tiny's a top 30, 25 to 50, 45 player in the history of the league.
Well, he did the most with his size. I mean, I remember one year.
And, that year of leading the league and scoring an assist, I went through, lived through that in a sense, saw him at his peak. Oh, he was tremendous. And then when he reinvented himself with the Celtic as a true point guard, which completely as a point guard who scored as an afterthought, it showed his versatility, adaptability, and he did what was necessary to help everybody get a ring, including himself. I mean, I admire all that, but top 10, please. And now I'm always happy to see someone acknowledge Elgin Baylor. All right, I that's nice that he would do that. But LeBron and Larry, in your time, I mean, come on, Doc. No,
I think it's Jeff. I think it's so hard because as I look at this list, I mean, 8 out of 10 to me were legitimate, but it's so hard, Jeff, when you look at, West, the Big O, and Elgin, and Bob's right. I mean, Baylor never gets his due. I mean, he's right, but it's so hard to compare West, Robertson, and Baylor when you
hard choices. Like my own
hard choices. Those are the 3 that I think.
Oh, it's one other name that easily ahead of Malone, Duncan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Duncan. Yeah. Of course.
So again, to me, the one that where you lose all credibility is Tiny over Larry. Right. All credibility,
or over Duncan, or over LeBron, or over KD.
Now he said he didn't go with anybody that's currently still playing that hasn't finished their career. So he didn't.
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry.
He didn't use LeBron and Steph. That was his kind of caveat. I don't give a shit. They both played how many years? If their career ended today, that's how you have to view it. If their career ended today. Well, if LeBron's career ends today, he's still arguably the second best player or first in NBA history.
Right.
Certainly in the top 10. And if you don't put him there, you look like a complete clown. Steph, all right, you can make a case Steph's, 8. You can make a case he's 12. He's somewhere in the conversation for top 10. But again, the tiny Archibald inclusion makes you look like a complete idiot, to be honest. I love Dr. J.
Yeah.
Listen, I grew up as a Sixers fan here in Boston, which I hate admitting, but I did.
Well, that's tough. That's tough, kid.
I know, but it's the truth.
That explains a lot, Bob.
I got to come clean. More of an Andrew Toney fan than a Dr. J fan, but whatever the case. Anyway, all right. So then Shaq did his.
I saw it.
Oh, what Shaq got?
I'm going to give you the 4 commonalities, and they are Michael Jordan, Kareem, Magic, and Karl Malone was on both of their top 10s.
That's amazing.
So, maybe they're just scared of the mailman.
Does Shaq deserve to be on a top 10?
He's right there. He's close. He's close.
And
Bob, go ahead.
He's 15 to 20 if he's lucky. I mean, he's overrated too a little.
I think he's 15 to 20 for sure.
Oh, no? My objection is Shaq way. My but on Shaq is his indifference to rebounding. And he never led the league in rebound. That is just an amazing thing. Yeah, I know he played up against Rodman. Rodman was leading the league in rebounding every year. Well, you're 7 foot. You're athletic as all hell. You're strong. You got every attribute athletically that a man could be given, starting with that size and good feet, agility. And what's the number 1 rule of rebounding? Number 1 rule. You want the damn ball or don't you? Number 1 is you want the ball. Go fucking get it. Excuse me. Go get it. And then comes all the other stuff, positioning, timing, and the last, and hold your position. And then the last and least important is jumping. I mean, Wes Unseld, got 90% of his rebounds below the rim. And talk about great rebounder.
Yeah,
so
Unseld and Silas.
So no, Shaq, the 4th best center to me is Olajuwon. He's the 4th best center. After the obvious.
What are you going, Kareem, Wilt, Russell, Olajuwon? Yeah,
and then I go Olajuwon. And then I'll allow Shaq to enter into the discussion, but he's not beating out Olajuwon. I'm sorry, not in my.
I can't wait till we tweet this clip to Shaq on Twitter, Gary.
This is nothing. It's nothing I haven't said and written 100 times. Is indifference to rebounding, and that's a very important part of. Can't be the greatest center if you don't want to rebound.
But
period.
Bob, have you seen him DJ?
I've seen him act. I think he was pretty good, actually. Back in, pretty good.
He's got the whole DJ thing going.
Interesting. He's got Allen Iverson. Now this is great. And he played.
Talent-wise, man. Talent-wise, and he changed. He did have a huge impact on the game. He did.
He played against them in the finals. And
I wouldn't. You don't see Allen Iverson in 2 minutes.
And he's got Isaiah Thomas. And that's, I think that his peak was the best small man ever. If you're going to define 6'1" as a cutoff. Yeah. His peak, his highlight film, guys, in the playoffs is second only to Michael's. An individual highlight, dazzling stuff. I was there for the 25-point quarter on the bum ankle. I was there when he got 16 points in a minute and a half in a game 5 against the Knicks in the 84 playoffs. He could put on bursts of activity that were the greatest any little man ever had, ever. And
I like Shaq's top 10. I actually like it, Bob, for the most part. Again.
Yeah, well, his is
what you argue with here.
And his is obviously, no, he's not. He's acknowledging a different era only.
Take himself off it. Take himself. He put himself on it and put.
Of course he
himself, did. There, you're going to put Kareem on instead of him. So you go Michael, Kareem, Magic, Karl Malone. I don't like LeBron, Kobe, Steph, Duncan, Isaiah. Then he goes Iverson again. Iverson, Karl Malone. I would replace. I mean, how do you don't have Wilt or Russell?
Well, he's not doing that.
Or Bird.
He made it clear he's not doing that era. I
Right.
believe.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
I mean,
So,
there are so many great players. It's really hard to do now.
oh, of course, it's fun. It's obviously it's not a right and wrong, except for my opinion. But other than that,
Oh, yeah.
there's no. But seriously,
Do you guys think about Shaq? I'm sorry, Bob. I interrupted you. What
no,
did you say?
I get people are going to say, well, Ryan's announcing Karl Malone, and both of these great players put Karl Malone in, so I go with their judgment over his. And I can understand somebody's going to say that, but I'm not budging on Karl Malone. I think he's. But I wouldn't hire either of these guys as general managers. That's what I'll say.
So Shaq won championships with Kobe and with Wade.
Yeah. Yep.
So can you say Shaq won like I look at that Laker team? I almost look at that as Kobe's team when Kobe won the. I mean, can you say that Shaq won one on his own or was the best player on the team when he won one?
Well, he wasn't in Miami. I know that.
No, I mean Wade was the best player.
Not in Miami. That was the big push-pull at that time.
Oh, I know.
In LA with Kobe and Shaq, what was really going on with them, and the ego factor in both of them, and ultimately, Jerry Buss and Jerry West, they had to make a decision, in a sense, and
like when you look at Akeem, like to Bob's point, like when you look at Akeem, when he won those 2 titles, he was the best player in the game. Jordan was out, I think. Wasn't Jordan playing baseball or something?
Jordan missed 93, 94, and 2/3 of 94, 95.
Right. Okay. So Akeem is the best player on the team, and when Jordan's out, he's arguably the best player in the game.
Now, Shaq was young, and Akeem schooled him in it when they met.
Yeah. So like Shaq and Akeem, there's no comparison to me.
He's totally schooled them at that point. Now he was young.
Yeah,
and it was a teacher. It was now young man. I'm going to show you how to really play this game, and Hakeem did. Yeah,
I guess my point is when you look at the great centers, and and I'm going to put Russell in there. Russell, Kareem, Hakeem, Duncan's a forward, big man. I look at those 4 guys. They were the best player on their team, and I don't know if Shaq can ever say that. Bob's point,
I think he had to share the honors with Kobe. I think it would be. He can't categorically say it. There's no way you can't.
That's my point. The other guys that Bob had in there were.
Now when Kobe was there, no, and that was by the way,
Shaq was just different. Shaq was just so much power.
Right.
There was not any finesse. There was not a whole lot of skill.
He did improve, though, Jeff. He did improve. He did get down to. We got some. A decent his own move turn around on the baseline a la Hakeem. It wasn't as good, but he got something. It wasn't just shoving people out of the way and dunking. And then of course there was the free throw thing, which he wasn't alone with that in the history of the game. I was going to say something. You guys, have either guys seen the tweet that's out there about Russell showing Russell dribbling the length of the court and then at the end jumping over a guy like one of these running backs do today before he laid the ball in?
Yeah.
It is.
I think I've seen that before.
I have it
somewhere. Yeah.
I have it. It is truly, to borrow an overused word, this is legitimately awesome. And
he was an Olympic athlete. I mean, Bill Russell could have been.
The point I make,
forget it.
Of course, prompted me into a tweet naturally, or excuse me, an x.com, and that is. And I've been saying this, guys. You've heard me say it. He was an athlete so far ahead of his time. He was an athlete for the 21st century in 1956. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing that I'm telling you about. When you see it, you just can't believe what you just saw. And he was a great athlete. And plus he followed rule number 1 of rebounding. You want the damn ball, don't you? Yes. Oh, yes, very much so. Anyway, I think, and I maintain that if he were plopped back into the league today, airlifted, back in, same body, same brain, same everything, he immediately leads the league in 2 categories: rebounding and shot and block shots.
Yeah.
Today.
But who if I said to you, who is the one guy, maybe the most underrated superstar in NBA history? Who is that one guy that maybe people, you'd have in the fringe of a top 10 all time or somebody like that other people just do not?
It's a good one. That's a really good one. Because I mean, I know does Baylor qualify now because he's so far fallen?
I think Baylor and Akeem are
mean,
too often forgotten.
And another guy who was a great forward in the old way of playing the game, just the best ever at the old game, was Bob Pettit. And
right.
Now I'm not sure, translating him today, how great, a bit. But there's one. But Baylor, people have to understand. Elgin Baylor invented modern basketball individual offense. He took a game that was basically horizontal. I mean, not and was on its way to being vertical. And he made it diagonal. I mean, he had release points on shots, up and unders that people had never seen before. Did all kinds of things people had never seen before. And all modern individual offense stems from Elgin Baylor. That alone should have him, revered in the great category. And then
and Dr. J share a brain. You both have him in the top 10.
Well, and Dr. J, see the lineage.
Where does Dr. J fall for you? Where does Dr. J fall?
Right in the 15 to 20 total. Right after the greatest forwards we're looking at, Larry and LeBron. Well, because LeBron is now almost injured with the uncategorizable frame, because he's got the ball so much. He's got the ball as much as most point guards, and so that he's not really a classic forward. Larry will have to stand apart as the greatest pure forward that we've known. But Dr. J was was a major force, and no question, and shouldn't be. He's almost starting to fall through the cracks with some people.
Agreed. I agree with it.
Oh, I have your answer, because in Boston, this is not a secret, but the definite answer to your question that most people, quote unquote, don't get how great, and that's John Havlicek. It's John Havlicek, period. Who in the last 4 or 5 years of his career, of their careers, in which he overlapped, he was better than both Oscar and Jerry. He played both two positions, outplayed them both head up and equal and better, and then playing the forward position. There's your answer for the rest of the world. In Boston, no, people understand. We try to make sure we keep people aware, but so the answer is John Havlicek.
My favorite player of all time. Guys, as we wrap it up, I just thought of this. We'll throw this out there, and we'll talk about this again next May or June. But this is going to be Mike Gorman's last season.
Yeah.
So, Bob, the floor is yours.
They use that old cliche. Look in a dictionary under the word "pro," and you will see a picture of Mike Gorman. He is the understated excellence. Does not call attention to himself as an announcer, but knows how to rise to the occasion. Is well prepared and just well informed, and he's a comforting presence, and he will be missed.
No, you're right about that. He is like the consummate pro. That's what you think about with him, is never makes a mistake. We'll throw some humor into it, but you're going to learn. You're going to learn, honestly, listening and watching Mike Gorman. I've learned so much over the years. And again, he keeps it simple rather than trying to do too much. And especially in this day and age when a lot of people feel like they have to adapt. I feel like he's been pretty consistent. It's worked.
Absolutely.
Well, what I could tell you, because I know how the spaghetti, I've been led into the world of how the Gorman spaghetti is made a little bit, because I filled in for Mike. And I love Tommy Heinsohn. I will always love him. He was the grumpy uncle at Comcast Sportsnet. Bob, you knew him.
Yes.
I mean, Tommy could bark at you 1 minute, hug you the next. But when Tommy died, I cried. I mean, I will love that man forever. But if you worked with Tommy for 30 years? Not easy. And I will tell you that Tommy's greatness was enabled by Mike Gorman.
That's so often true. In like I always say, Sean McDonough invented Jerry Remy.
Oh, there's no question.
It's Rem Dog. I mean, he brought Jerry Remy, an ultra introvert, the minute the camera and the microphone is dead, and created for him a career. I'm sure lucrative. Okay, so I'm on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, but you're right. But that's an excellent comparison because while you gentlemen could talk about the game of basketball, I could talk about broadcasters because I've seen it and I've known it and I've analyzed them. And Mike, the Tommy point, the whole business of Tommy was made possible by Mike because Mike was not in competition with him. Never. We know so many guys, I mean, there was sometimes Mike and Tommy used to have their spats a little bit. I mean, sometimes by the end of the season, they were a couple like an old married couple. There was like, okay, I'm done. Because like I'd work with Tommy and Tommy would say, when Mike would the year the Celtics lost like 19 in a row or whatever.
Yeah.
Gorman had the flu. The flu a couple times. He was like, Gary goes, I'm not coming up from New York tonight. It's all yours. And he was gracious. He was great. Like he watched the game. He gave me some notes. Some guys are brutal. You fill in for a guy. They think you're up for your job. I was never going to take Mike Gorman's job. But like, he was so gracious. He was like, Gary, no, you do it tonight. And I'd sit with Tommy. And Tommy would give me the hand. He'd be like, give me the hand. Like Tommy would go, okay, when the ball comes up the floor, that's when you talk. But when it comes out of when the ball comes out of the basket, that's when you talk. But as soon as it gets up the floor, it gets to a certain point. But whatever Tommy would tell me, it would be like a 180. And he would get mad at me. And I was like, but Tommy, I think you just told me to do it that way. And I would tell Mike that. And Mike goes, oh, Gare. He goes, it's been my life for 30 years. I'll never forget this wonderful story. Tommy said something about a guy, praised him. And then Mike always had it up here. Next game, Mike brought it back up. Mm-hmm. And then Tommy said to Mike, whoever told you that? And Mike was like, he just did. And the thing also I want to, and I may be going on long, but I don't care. The other thing is like Mike adjusted to the way the game was called. Because when they first started, especially with television, you didn't have all the graphics. You didn't have all of the aids now. So you had much more information. But by the time, like even when the game's going on now, Mike used to tell me, dude, it's a talk show. Because everything's on the screen. When he started out, he'd have a ton of notes. But now you just write down a couple bullet points and you talk about what you see. The guys that drive me crazy doing games are the ones that talk too much.
Sure.
They state the obvious. Mike lets it breathe. All the numbers are on the screen. People can read it. Tell a story. Get something out of Scalabrini. Let Tommy tell a story. Bring something in. Gorman was the best. No one adjusted to the evolution of sports broadcasting better than Gorman. I will tell you that for a fact.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Great.
Good stuff. All right, guys. A pleasure. Till next week.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, be careful. Be careful, Bob. Shaq's coming after you.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed.